Have you ever been in a situation where someone disrespected you so badly that every part of you wanted to react? Your heart pounds, your mind races, and the words sit on the tip of your tongue, ready to fire back. You tell yourself, I have to say something. I can't let them get away with this. But what if I told you that real strength isn't found in the loudest response, but in the power of restraint? See, when people disrespect you, they're not just insulting you, they're baiting you. They want a reaction. They want to pull you into their chaos, to make you act out of anger, to rob you of your peace. But the moment you respond with rage, you've already lost. True power is in self-control. Jesus stood silent before his accusers because he knew his purpose was greater than their insults. When you refuse to engage in their game, you rise above. You keep your dignity. You walk in wisdom. Drop a thank you, Jesus, in the comments if you receive this message. Subscribe to this channel because this word is for you. The science of self-control, how to master your reactions and protect your power. Have you ever felt your blood boil the moment someone disrespected you? Your heart races, your breathing shortens, and suddenly, every fiber of your being screams for retaliation. You want to clap back, to put them in their place, to prove that you're not to be messed with. But what if I told you that this reaction isn't a sign of strength? It's just your brain running on autopilot. When you're insulted or disrespected, your brain doesn't pause to analyze the situation. It reacts. This is because of a small almond-shaped structure deep in your brain called the amygdala, which is responsible for processing emotions like fear, anger, and threat. The moment you perceive disrespect, your fight or flight response kicks in. Your body floods with adrenaline, preparing you to either confront the threat or escape it. This is why your first instinct is to fire back. But here's the problem. If you react in the heat of the moment, you're not in control. Your amygdala is. True power isn't about being the loudest person in the room. True power is about who stays in control of their mind when the pressure is on. This is where self-restraint becomes your greatest weapon. The good news? You can rewire your brain to slow down its emotional responses. You don't have to be a slave to your impulses. Neuroscience shows that by practicing certain techniques, you can train your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for logic, reasoning, and decision-making, to override emotional reactions. Here are 3 scientifically proven methods to master self-control. The first is the 4-7-8 breathing technique, which resets your nervous system. When emotions rise, your breathing changes and your nervous system goes into survival mode. But you can hack this response by consciously slowing down your breath. Inhale through your nose for 4 seconds, hold for 7 seconds, and exhale slowly for 8 seconds. This simple practice reduces stress, lowers your heart rate, and puts your brain back in control before you say or do something you'll regret. The second is writing before you speak. When emotions are high, logic is low. That's why impulsive reactions usually lead to regret. Instead of responding immediately, take 30 seconds to write down your thoughts, either in your phone or on a piece of paper. This technique activates the prefrontal cortex, shifting you from emotional reactivity to rational thinking. Often, by the time you've written your thoughts, you'll realize that your initial reaction wasn't the best course of action. The third is reframing with the 5-year rule. Ask yourself, will this matter in 5 years? Most things that trigger us feel big in the moment, but become insignificant over time. The next time someone disrespects you, let's just step back and ask, will this situation affect my future? Is this person's opinion even relevant to my life? Do I want this one moment to dictate my energy today? This mental shift instantly reduces emotional intensity, making it easier to stay composed. Now let's be clear, self-control is not weakness. In fact, it's the greatest advantage you can have in any social situation. When someone insults you, they expect a reaction. They want to trigger you. They want to see you lose control. But when you stay composed, you disrupt their entire plan. Think about Jesus. He stood in silence when falsely accused, not because he was weak, but because he had already won. His silence wasn't surrender, it was supreme control. This is why the strongest people aren't the ones who always clap back. They're the ones who don't need to. Proverbs 16:32 says, "Better a patient person than a warrior, one with self-control than one who takes a city." The world glorifies the fighter, one who strikes back. But God honors those who master themselves. Self-restraint isn't just about avoiding conflict, it's about protecting your peace. When you control your reactions, you stop giving people power over your emotions. You keep your mind clear, your energy focused, and your spirit unshaken. And here's the truth. People will respect you more when they see that you don't get easily rattled. Next time someone disrespects you, don't let your amygdala run the show. Pause, breathe, think. Let them expect a reaction. Then surprise them with silence. Not because you're afraid, but because you refuse to be controlled. Have you ever watched a samurai in battle? Not a reckless fighter swinging wildly in blind rage, but a disciplined master, calm, focused, unreadable. Their sword is an extension of their mind, and their greatest weapon isn't just steel, it's control. A samurai doesn't react to an enemy's taunts. They do not flinch. They do not lash out. They wait. They calculate. They choose their moment. Now imagine yourself as that samurai in the battlefield of life. When someone disrespects you, do you react emotionally, swinging wildly like an untrained fighter? Or do you remain poised, unshaken, and dictate the battle on your own terms? This is the difference between reacting and responding. Reaction versus response. Who holds the power? A reaction is instant, unfiltered, emotional. It is the fist slammed on the table, the angry retort, the reckless action driven by pride. It is the moment when your emotions grab the steering wheel and drive you straight into regret. But a response? A response is calculated. It is measured, intentional, and unshakable. It acknowledges the situation without allowing the situation to dictate your emotions. Understand this, every time you react out of anger, you give away your power. You hand control of your emotions over to the very person trying to provoke you. But when you respond with clarity and restraint, you take that power back. You refuse to be their puppet. Jesus himself was the ultimate master of restraint. When they mocked him, he did not flinch. When they accused him, he did not defend himself in anger. When they spat in his face, he remained steady because he knew who he was. That is the mark of true power, not the need to prove yourself, but the certainty that you have nothing to prove. So what do you do when faced with disrespect? Do you stay completely silent? Not always. Sometimes silence is the best answer, but there's another strategy that is even more effective, the gray rock method. The gray rock method is simple. You become uninteresting, unreactive, and unreadable. When someone insults you, they are fishing for a reaction. They want to see you get mad. They want to control your emotions. Instead of giving them that satisfaction, you respond calmly, neutrally, without emotion. Imagine a toxic person throwing bait into the water, waiting for you to bite. If you lash out, you've taken the bait. But if you remain still, unshaken, they lose interest. Their words bounce off you like arrows against a mountain. If someone insults you, instead of defending yourself, say, "That's interesting." If they try to provoke you, simply reply, "Noted." If they demand a reaction, you answer with calm disinterest. Ignorant. This method isn't weakness, it's strategy. It's the art of making yourself untouchable. Sometimes, instead of going silent, a well-placed question can completely disarm an aggressor. This is the technique of reflective questioning, asking a question that forces the other person to reflect on their own actions. When someone tries to belittle you, instead of getting defensive, calmly ask, "What makes you say that?" When they insult your intelligence, ask, "Is that really what you believe?" When they attack you personally, look them in the eye and say, "Does treating people this way make you feel better about yourself?" These questions do two things. They shift the focus back onto the other person and force them to confront their own behavior. Instead of engaging in a pointless argument, you place a mirror in front of them, making them question themselves. Even the Pharisees, who constantly tried to trap Jesus with their words, were undone by his wisdom. Instead of reacting to their accusations, he responded with powerful, thought-provoking questions that exposed their hypocrisy. This is what it means to fight with wisdom instead of emotion. In samurai culture, battle was not just about defeating an opponent, it was about mastering oneself. A warrior trained not only in the art of the sword, but in the art of mental discipline. The greatest enemy is never the one standing in front of you. The greatest enemy is your own reaction. The next time someone disrespects you, don't think, "I am being attacked." Instead, think, "This is a test. How I respond determines whether I pass or fail." A samurai does not enter battle emotionally. He observes, calculates, and moves only when necessary. The wise warrior knows that sometimes the best move is no move at all. So ask yourself, do you want to be the one who flails wildly or the one who stands strong and in control? At the root of all this is one thing: self-respect. When you know your worth, you don't need to fight for it. When you are secure in yourself, you don't need to prove anything. True self-respect is understanding that someone else's words cannot define you. Their disrespect does not decrease your value. Their opinion does not shape your destiny. A lion does not turn to bark at every dog that barks at it. A king does not argue with every peasant who speaks against him. And a child of God does not lower themselves to the level of those who seek to provoke them. Jesus did not need to fight for his worth. He knew it. And so should you. Some people believe that walking away is weakness, but the truly strong know when to walk away with their dignity intact. When someone disrespects you, you have three choices: react emotionally and lose control, engage in pointless conflict and waste your energy, respond with wisdom, keep your power, and move on. The third option is always the most powerful. The Bible tells us in Proverbs 29:11, "A fool gives full vent to his anger, but a wise man quietly holds it back." The strongest person in the room is not the one who shouts the loudest. It is the one who stays composed while everyone else loses their cool. When you master this, you will walk through life untouchable, unshaken, and unstoppable. Now the choice is yours. Will you let the world dictate your emotions? Will you hand over control to every person who tries to provoke you? Or will you rise above, stand firm, and walk in the power of restraint? Have you ever felt completely drained after an argument? Not just frustrated, but mentally, emotionally, and even physically exhausted? That's because every time you react to an insult, every time you engage in a battle that isn't worth fighting, you're spending your emotional energy, a resource more valuable than money, because once it's depleted, you can't get it back. Your emotional energy is sacred. It fuels your focus, your dreams, your peace of mind. But too many people waste it on things that don't serve them. Pointless arguments, proving themselves to people who don't matter, reacting to every slight as if their self-worth is on trial. What if you could take back that power? What if you stopped giving people free access to your emotions? This is where self-respect comes in. Self-respect isn't just about standing up for yourself. It's about knowing when to walk away, when to let go, and when to conserve your energy for the battles that truly matter. Think of your emotional energy like a bank account. Every time you engage in unnecessary conflict, you make a withdrawal. Every time you let someone's insult ruin your day, you're giving them a piece of your peace. And when your account runs empty, you're left mentally exhausted, unable to focus on your goals, and vulnerable to negativity. This isn't just theory, it's neuroscience. Studies in behavioral psychology show that the more you engage in emotionally charged situations, the more stress hormones like cortisol flood your system, keeping you on edge, it's reactive, and mentally fatigued. You carry that stress into other areas of your life, your work, your relationships, even your faith. But here's the truth. Not every battle is yours to fight. Not every insult deserves a reaction. Not every situation is worth your energy. Jesus himself understood this. He didn't waste energy on arguments that didn't serve his purpose. When the Pharisees tried to trap him with words, he often responded with silence or a single profound question that exposed their hypocrisy. He knew his mission was greater than their petty insults. If you want to protect your energy, you must learn to do the same. When someone disrespects you, your ego will scream, defend yourself, show them they can't talk to you like that. But ask yourself, is this battle worth my energy? Will engaging in this argument make my life better? Does proving myself to this person actually matter? Most of the time, the answer is no, because here's the truth. You don't need to fight every battle to prove your strength. True strength is knowing which battles even deserve your presence. Imagine a lion walking through the jungle. Does the lion stop to bark back at every dog that barks at it? No, it keeps walking because it knows who it is. That's self-respect. Some battles deserve your voice, but many simply deserve your silence. And sometimes walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Not everyone will treat you with respect. Not everyone will see your worth, and that's okay. The problem isn't that life is unfair. The problem is that many people expect fairness where it doesn't exist. The Japanese philosophy of wabi-sabi teaches that imperfection is not a flaw, it's a part of life. A broken ceramic bowl, instead of being discarded, is repaired with gold, making the cracks a part of its beauty. Your life, your experiences, even the way people treat you, none of it will ever be perfect. But that doesn't make you any less valuable. The moment you stop expecting people to treat you perfectly, you free yourself. Someone disrespects you, that's on them, not you. Someone underestimates you, that's their blindness, not your failure. Someone doesn't appreciate your worth, that does not mean you are worthless. Instead of focusing on how others see you, focus on how you see yourself. You are not the sum of other people's opinions. You are not defined by their disrespect. Your worth is God-given, unshaken, unbreakable. There's one more thing about self-respect that many overlook. It's not just about how you handle disrespect in the moment, it's about what you carry afterward. How many hours have you wasted replaying an insult in your mind? How much energy have you burned wishing you had said something different, done something different? Self-respect is also about letting go. Forgiveness isn't always for the other person, it's for you. When you hold on to resentment, when you dwell on disrespect, you are still letting them control you. You are still reacting even if the moment has passed. But when you forgive, you reclaim your peace. Jesus said in Matthew 6:14, "For if you forgive other people when they sin against you, your heavenly Father will also forgive you." Forgiveness isn't just an act of grace, it's an act of power. When you forgive, you release the burden. You walk lighter. You step forward instead of staying stuck in the past. That is true freedom. That is true power. So now the question is, will you keep wasting energy on meaningless battles, or will you step into the power of restraint? You don't have time to entertain every insult. You don't have the energy to fight battles that don't serve your purpose. You have greater things to do. Protect your energy, choose your battles, walk with confidence, and never let the opinions of others shake the truth of who you are. Have you ever watched a master chess player? They don't react impulsively to every move their opponent makes. They pause, analyze, and calculate 2 or 3 steps ahead before making their move. Every decision is intentional, ensuring that their long-term strategy remains intact. Now imagine applying this same chessboard perspective to your life. Every time someone disrespects you, consider it a move on the board. Are you going to react immediately, giving them control over your next move? Or will you pause, calculate, and respond in a way that strengthens your position? Disrespect comes in many forms: a careless comment, a passive-aggressive remark, a direct attack. But not every slight requires your engagement. Before reacting, ask yourself, does this matter in the grand scheme of things? Will my response improve the situation? Or will it just escalate the conflict? If I react now, what will the consequences be in the next 2 or 3 moves? Just like in chess, if a move does not improve your position or protect your long-term strategy, it's often better to hold steady. When you react emotionally, you're playing checkers, moving piece by piece without thinking ahead. But when you pause and calculate, you are playing chess, thinking ahead, making deliberate moves, and maintaining control of the board. When someone insults you, they are expecting a reaction. They are setting a trap, hoping you will engage in a battle you didn't choose. If you take the bait and react instantly, you are letting them dictate the game. But when you pause, breathe, and think ahead, you take back control. You move on your own terms, not theirs. This isn't weakness. It's wisdom. It's what separates a master from an amateur. Think about Jesus standing before Pilate. When accused, mocked, and provoked, he didn't react emotionally. He stayed silent. He knew his purpose was greater than that moment of conflict. He wasn't there to win an argument. He was there to fulfill a mission. What's your mission? Are you here to react to every insult, or are you here for something greater? This strategy isn't just a theory, it's a practical skill that can transform your interactions. Here's how to apply it in different areas of life. Article 1, in the workplace. Think before you engage. Imagine your boss or coworker makes a dismissive remark in a meeting. Your pride wants to clap back immediately. But what happens if you do? You might damage your professional image. You might escalate the situation unnecessarily. You might lose focus on your long-term career goals. Now, what if you pause and assess? Instead of reacting in the moment, you choose to address the issue later, privately, professionally, and with clarity. That approach gives you the upper hand, allowing you to maintain control over the narrative and be seen as calm, collected, and strategic. 2, in relationships, avoid emotional traps. Sometimes people lash out because of their own insecurities, stress, or pain. A friend, spouse, or family member might say something hurtful, not because they mean it, but because they are dealing with something internally. If you react instantly, you might say something you regret, worsening the situation. But if you pause, step back, and ask yourself what's really going on, you might realize that their words are not about you, but about what they are going through. By choosing when and how to respond, you build stronger, more resilient relationships instead of engaging in unnecessary battles. 3, on social media, don't waste moves on meaningless battles. Social media is full of people waiting to argue, provoke, and stir up negativity. If you respond to every comment, every criticism, every disagreement, you are playing a losing game. A wise chess player doesn't move just because their opponent does. They wait for the right opportunity, ensuring every move serves their ultimate goal. Before replying to negativity online, ask yourself, will this conversation be productive? Am I adding value or just reacting? Would I even care about this in a week? If the answer is no, keep scrolling. Protect your energy, keep your strategy intact, and stay focused on what truly matters. When you learn to think ahead instead of reacting impulsively, you develop emotional intelligence. This means you recognize when your emotions are being triggered. You understand the long-term consequences of your response. You stay in control instead of letting others control you. The ability to choose your battles wisely is a sign of maturity, self-respect, and strength. It shows that you value your energy and time too much to waste it on meaningless conflicts. Now, this doesn't mean you ignore all forms of disrespect. There are times when standing up for yourself is necessary. The key is knowing when and how to do it. If the disrespect is repetitive, harmful to your well-being, or threatens your self-worth, you have every right to set clear boundaries. But even then, you must engage with strategy, not emotion. Address the issue calmly and assertively. Choose a time and place where your voice will be heard. Make it clear what behavior you will and will not tolerate. You don't have to fight every battle, but when you do, fight with wisdom, not impulse. The best chess players don't react to every move. They play with patience, foresight, and discipline. Your life is no different. Every insult, every slight, every act of disrespect, it's just a move on the board. The question is, will you react impulsively and lose control, or will you think ahead and move with purpose? Jesus didn't fight every battle. He knew which fights mattered and which ones didn't. And because of that, he fulfilled his mission without distraction. It's time to do the same. Think ahead. Protect your energy. Move with strategy. And never let someone else's words dictate your next move. Choosing your battles also means recognizing that some people will never change, no matter how much you try to engage with them or correct their behavior. There are individuals who thrive on conflict, who are perpetually disrespectful because it's part of their personality or coping mechanism. Engaging with these individuals often leads to a cycle of conflict that benefits no one. In these cases, walking away is the most powerful thing you can do. It signals that you refuse to waste your energy on someone who isn't interested in meaningful dialogue or change. Choosing your battles is about prioritizing your peace of mind and personal growth. It's about understanding that not every act of disrespect deserves your attention, and that you have the power to decide where to invest your energy. By doing so, you protect yourself from unnecessary conflict, preserve your emotional well-being, and focus on the things that truly matter in your life. It's a conscious choice to rise above negativity and maintain control over your reactions and your path. Through this, you demonstrate strength, maturity, and wisdom, ensuring that your actions reflect the best version of yourself. When faced with disrespect, you have two choices. React immediately and let your emotions take control, or choose resilience, stay silent, and rise above the insult. This is not submission. It is a choice full of power. a bold step to assert your self-worth. The moment you choose silence, you are not just taking control of the situation, but you are taking control of yourself. In a world where people are quick to throw hurtful words, staying silent can be a mighty victory. Silence is not weakness. It is strength that does not need to be demonstrated through words. You are showing something louder than any words could express. You are not shaken by the insults. You are not drawn into meaningless arguments. You stand firm, unshaken, like a rock amidst the floods. Resilience is the ability to stand tall even when everything around you is falling apart. When disrespected, every fiber in your body screams to react. But it is in that moment, when you pause and do not let anger consume you, that you win. It's like not letting the fire of rage burn you down. Instead, you master the fire, turning it into a sacred force that helps you rise. You do not need to retaliate with hurtful words. Instead, you respond with calmness, with inner strength that no words can reach. That is the power of rising above. Because when you remain calm in a tense moment, when you do not let yourself be carried away by anger, you not only win over the other person, but you also win over yourself. Each time you choose silence, you are like a warrior in a psychological battle, wielding an invisible sword that cuts through rage and conflict. You are not fighting for anger, you are fighting for resilience. When you can stand firm in the face of insulting words, you are practicing resilience, not just for yourself, but for everyone around you. Because in a society filled with harsh words, those who know how to master their emotions, who keep silent in challenging moments, are the ones who truly make a difference. You do not need to shout to prove you are strong, because your silence is the loudest declaration of all. Your silence is not submission. It is a bold statement that you will not let anyone lower your self-worth. And then, as resilience in you is slowly forged, you realize that silence truly is the most powerful weapon you have. No one can take your respect away when you decide not to respond to disrespect. Those who try to drag you down simply cannot get anything from you because you have detached yourself from their negativity and allowed yourself to maintain clarity. Each time you remain resilient in silence, you are building a solid foundation for the future. Resilience is not something that can be built overnight. It is created through each day, each moment when you choose not to let your emotions control you, when you do not let others' disrespect strip you of your identity. And through all of this, you will discover one thing: resilience does not just help you overcome challenges. It is the key to unlocking greater success. When you master your emotions, you master every situation. You do not simply survive through challenges. You grow stronger from them. Each time you stand your ground and do not react in difficult situations, you are evolving into someone who will be respected and admired. They cannot help but see your strength. They cannot help but recognize that you are someone who can overcome any challenge without having to do a thing. Resilience is an ongoing journey. It never ends, but in this journey you will find your true strength. When you know how to rise above challenges in silence, when you can stay calm and not let disrespect throw you off course, you become someone no one can take down. You are not just winning in each situation, you are winning in life. And in this life, that is the true victory. The victory of resilience, the victory of choosing to rise above. In the face of disrespect, the immediate urge is to react, to defend your honor, to prove that you won't stand for being belittled. Your body tenses, your thoughts race, and every ounce of your being wants to lash out. The tension between your natural instincts and the urge to maintain composure is overwhelming. This is the battle we all face when confronted with disrespect. But here's the truth: your greatest strength in these moments does not come from your ability to retaliate, but from your ability to remain silent and harness that inner peace within you. The problem lies in the emotional pressure we experience when disrespected. It's like a fuse that's lit, ready to explode at any moment. The insults, the dismissive remarks, the disregard for your value, all of these things create a storm inside. This emotional chaos can pull you into a vortex of negativity, leaving you drained and vulnerable. But the pressure to react immediately is not your enemy. The real enemy is the reaction itself. When we succumb to the emotional surge, we hand over control of the situation. We become prisoners of our own emotions, trapped in a cycle that only feeds the conflict. The tension builds as the disrespect grows louder, the insults sharper. The urge to engage in an argument, to fire back with words that carry the same weight of cruelty, becomes almost unbearable. Your pride kicks in, demanding you defend yourself, demanding you show the world that you are not to be walked over. You feel the sting of humiliation, the desire for validation, and the fear of being seen as weak. These feelings flood your mind and threaten to take over, forcing you to respond, to fight back. But in that moment, you must ask yourself one question: is reacting worth the cost? Will it bring you peace, or will it prolong the storm? Here's where the turning point comes: the crescendo of the battle within. In the face of these emotions, silence becomes the answer. It is not surrender, nor is it passivity. Silence is an active choice, a decision to not let the chaos dictate your actions. When you choose silence, you are not merely withholding words. You are choosing to take control of your emotional state. In that moment, you step outside the battle, rising above the noise. By not engaging, you preserve your inner peace. You refuse to let the words and actions of others have the power to disrupt your calm. The solution lies in recognizing the power of silence as a tool for building inner peace. Silence is not an absence of response. It is the presence of wisdom. It's the act of pausing before reacting, of taking a deep breath to recenter yourself. It's about choosing to act from a place of thoughtfulness, not impulsivity. By remaining silent, you create space between the trigger and your reaction. This space allows you to reflect, to process your emotions, and to decide the best course of action, if any. More often than not, that course of action will be to maintain your peace and walk away from the conflict. Because in the end, peace is more valuable than winning an argument. Silence also provides clarity. It cuts through the fog of anger and frustration, allowing you to see the situation for what it truly is: a fleeting moment of disrespect that holds no lasting power over you. In the silence, you regain your focus and strengthen your resolve. You are no longer defined by the words or actions of others. You define yourself by your ability to remain calm, composed, and unwavering in the face of adversity. The more you practice this, the stronger your inner peace becomes. You no longer allow external factors to dictate your emotional state. You are in control, and that control brings with it a sense of power and freedom. By building this inner peace through silence, you start to break free from the chains of emotional reactivity. You no longer need to prove your worth with every interaction. You realize that your value is intrinsic and that no external disrespect can diminish it. This understanding shifts your perspective. Instead of seeing every slight as a challenge, you see it as an opportunity to reinforce your self-control and preserve your peace. Each time you choose silence, you are choosing to protect the most valuable thing you have: your peace of mind. This practice of silence becomes a spiritual exercise, a form of self-discipline that transcends the immediate moment. Over time, it becomes second nature. When you are confronted with disrespect, your first instinct is not to react, but to pause, to take a deep breath, and to respond from a place of inner peace. This shift in mindset is what enables you to rise above the chaos and to remain centered in your truth. In the process, you transform your relationship with conflict, seeing it not as a battle to be won, but as an opportunity to cultivate greater peace within yourself. In conclusion, building inner peace through silence is not about avoiding conflict or ignoring disrespect. It's about choosing to stay grounded in your own sense of worth, regardless of how others choose to treat you. It's about recognizing that your peace is a powerful force, one that cannot be shaken by the words or actions of others. By embracing silence, you gain the strength to rise above the turmoil and protect your inner tranquility, knowing that no matter what comes your way, you have the power to remain undisturbed, unshaken, and at peace. In the face of disrespect, the immediate desire is to engage, to prove your worth, to push back against the forces that seek to diminish you. But in those moments, silence becomes your most powerful shield. It is not weakness, it is the strength to protect your spirit from the corrosive effects of negativity. Just as a warrior prepares for battle with armor, silence is your spiritual armor, fortifying you against the arrows of insult and disdain. This is not a passive silence. It is an active decision, a conscious choice to guard your soul against the attacks that seek to undermine your peace. Silence, when chosen intentionally, becomes a powerful force protecting your inner sanctity. It creates space between you and the attack, allowing you to maintain your sense of self, your dignity, and your connection to your higher purpose. This silence is a spiritual practice, a form of self-defense that requires strength, awareness, and discipline. Think of the story of Jesus in the Gospel of Matthew, when he stood silent before Pilate. The Roman governor, having no true understanding of who Jesus was, mocked and questioned him, demanding a response. But Jesus remained silent. His silence wasn't out of weakness. It was a conscious decision to protect his peace and his divine mission. In that moment, he showed us that silence can be a form of strength, a tool that allows you to stay grounded in your truth even when the world is pressing against you. His silence was not defeat. It was a powerful affirmation of his spiritual authority and his trust in God's plan. By not reacting to the accusations and the mockery, Jesus was choosing not to let the negativity of the moment define him. Similarly, when we are disrespected, our natural impulse is to react, to fight back, to defend our honor. But in doing so, we risk giving away our peace, our power, and our spiritual focus. Every word spoken in anger, every response rooted in pride drains our energy and pulls us further away from our divine purpose. In these moments, we must learn to embrace the silence. Just as Jesus did, we must learn to stand firm in our faith, not allowing the external chaos to disturb our inner peace. Silence becomes a refuge, a place where we can connect with our higher self and reaffirm our strength in the face of adversity. Let me remind you of the story of David and Goliath. David, a young shepherd, stood before the giant Goliath, who mocked Israel and challenged them to battle. The soldiers of Israel were terrified, but David, despite being smaller and less experienced, chose to stand his ground. His weapon? A simple sling and the power of God. But notice what David did before he ever faced Goliath. He was calm, centered, and rooted in his faith. He didn't shout or engage in a verbal battle. He didn't waste his energy trying to convince others of his worth. He stood in silence, trusting in God's guidance, and that silence became his spiritual defense. It was not the sword or the sling that defeated Goliath. It was David's unwavering faith, his peace, and his trust in God's plan. In the same way, when we are faced with disrespect or negativity, we must choose silence as a form of spiritual defense. When we choose not to engage with insults or provocations, we are protecting our spiritual integrity. We are saying, "I will not allow your words to disturb the peace that God has granted me." Silence in this context is not a sign of fear or submission. It is a declaration of strength. It is an acknowledgement that we are grounded in something greater than the temporary storm of disrespect. Just as David stood unshaken before Goliath, we too must stand firm in our faith, trusting that silence will be our defense and that God's power will be our guide. This is why silence is not just a tool of protection, it is a tool of spiritual elevation. By choosing to remain silent in the face of disrespect, we elevate our consciousness above the petty insults and distractions of the world. We choose to see the bigger picture, the eternal peace that comes from knowing who we are in God's eyes. In silence, we find our center. We find our strength. We protect our spiritual energy and reinforce our connection with the divine. So in those moments of disrespect, when the urge to react burns within you, take a deep breath and remember, silence is your shield. It is your weapon of spiritual defense. Just as Jesus and David showed us, silence is not a sign of weakness, but a declaration of strength, a powerful choice to protect your inner peace and remain grounded in your divine purpose. Let silence be your response, and in doing so, let your spirit rise above the chaos. Let your silence be the victory. In moments of disrespect, our immediate reaction is often to take the insult personally, to feel wounded by the words or actions that aim to diminish our worth. But what if, instead of reacting with anger or defensiveness, you paused for a moment and looked deeper into the root of the disrespect? What if you could see beyond the words, beyond the offensive gestures, to understand the pain, the insecurities, or the struggles that are driving the other person? This shift in perspective is not just powerful, it is essential. If you do not take this step, if you do not choose to understand what lies behind the disrespect, you risk being pulled into a cycle of negativity that will drain your energy and steal your peace. Disrespect is rarely about you. It is almost always about the person delivering it. It is a reflection of their internal struggles, their unhealed wounds, their unmet needs. When someone disrespects you, it is often an unconscious expression of their own pain, frustration, or fear. This is not to excuse their behavior, but to help you see that their disrespect has nothing to do with your value. It is about their inability to cope with their own emotions. And in that moment, they lash out. They project their hurt onto you because they don't know how else to handle it. But you, my friend, do not have to be a victim of their projections. You do not have to absorb their pain. When you pause and take a step back, you will begin to see the deeper truth. That disrespect is not a reflection of who you are. It is a cry for help from someone who is hurting. This understanding gives you power. It allows you to rise above the insult and respond with compassion instead of anger. Imagine the shift in your mindset when you realize that the disrespect you face is not about you at all. It is a momentary storm, and you have the ability to stand firm, unshaken, while others flounder in their own turmoil. But do not wait. The urgency to recognize this truth is real. If you continue to react emotionally, you will remain trapped in the cycle of conflict and frustration. Your peace will be shattered, and you will continue to give power to those who seek to diminish you. Now is the time to stop. Now is the time to choose understanding over reaction. Now is the time to elevate yourself above the pain of others, and in doing so, preserve your inner calm and spiritual strength. You must make this choice immediately. When you encounter disrespect, ask yourself, what is driving this person's behavior? What is the real issue behind the words they have thrown at me? This will immediately shift your focus from defensiveness to curiosity. You will stop being consumed by the need to defend your honor and instead become an observer of the other person's pain. From this place, you are free. You are not controlled by their disrespect, nor are you pulled into their emotional chaos. You are grounded in the knowledge that their actions speak more about them than they do about you. Understanding the deeper motivations behind disrespect is not just a way to protect yourself. It is the path to true spiritual power. It is the key to breaking free from the emotional entanglement that others try to create. When you choose to see beyond the surface, when you choose to understand the root of their actions, you rise above. You transcend the cycle of hurt and retaliation and walk in a place of peace, strength, and wisdom. The moment is now. You must act swiftly. Your ability to understand the deeper meaning behind disrespect is the key to protecting your peace. It is the key to staying grounded in your truth. Do not allow the hurt of others to shape how you see yourself. Choose understanding, and in doing so, you will transform every disrespect you encounter into a stepping stone for your growth and spiritual victory. It's easy to think that conflict is an inevitable part of any relationship, that arguments, misunderstandings, and disrespect are unavoidable. And in some ways, that may be true. But what if I told you that there is a way to not only survive these moments, but to transform them into something that strengthens your relationships instead of tearing them down? What if I told you that the power to do this already lies within you? That the secret to lasting, healthy relationships is not in your ability to argue, but in your ability to control yourself, to remain calm and composed in the face of conflict. When you choose self-control, you choose something far greater than just avoiding confrontation. You are choosing to elevate the very foundation of your relationships. The moment you control your response in a difficult situation, you lay the groundwork for long-lasting trust and respect. Instead of feeding into the negativity, you become a source of peace, stability, and understanding. And this, my friends, is where the magic begins. Imagine for a moment a relationship where conflict doesn't drive a wedge between you and the other person, but instead strengthens the bond. A relationship where disagreement becomes an opportunity for growth, not a battleground. When you practice self-control, you stop reacting from your emotions, and you start responding with wisdom. You stop being pulled into the chaos and instead become a guiding force in the storm. And here's the thing, you can create this type of relationship with anyone. Whether it's a friend, a family member, or a colleague, when you choose to remain calm and composed, you invite a level of respect and trust that cannot be shattered by the petty conflicts of life. As you develop this ability to control your emotions, something miraculous happens. The dynamics of your relationships begin to shift. You stop feeling the need to defend yourself or prove your worth. Instead, you focus on maintaining your peace, and in doing so, you create space for true connection. The people around you will begin to notice. They will see you as a pillar of strength, someone who is reliable, someone who doesn't crumble when faced with adversity. And here's the best part. Because you remain calm, you give others the freedom to be themselves without fear of judgment or retaliation. In doing so, you foster an environment where openness, honesty, and understanding can thrive. But here's the catch. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. It requires consistent effort, practice, and awareness. There will be moments when the temptation to react in anger or frustration is overwhelming. But the more you practice self-control, the stronger your ability to remain composed becomes. And in these moments of challenge, when you feel like giving in to your emotions, you must remember this. Your self-control is the gateway to a deeper, more fulfilling connection with those you care about. Now picture yourself in a difficult situation, perhaps an argument with someone you love. Your heart is racing, your mind is spinning with thoughts of what you want to say, what you want to prove. But then you pause, you take a deep breath. You choose to remain silent for just a moment longer, to think before you speak. And in that pause, you realize that you have all the power in the world. The situation doesn't control you, you control it. In that moment of stillness, you create the space for understanding, for clarity, for resolution. You have turned a potentially explosive situation into one of opportunity, and you've done it without saying a word. This is the miracle of self-control. This is the transformative power it holds. When you practice self-control, you are not just saving your relationships, you are elevating them to something greater. You are creating a foundation of trust, respect, and love that will withstand any storm. And this, my friends, is how you build relationships that last, not through arguments, not through conflict, but through the quiet strength of self-control. I promise you this, when you choose to practice self-control, you will see the magic unfold before your eyes. You will watch your relationships evolve, growing stronger and more meaningful with each passing day. You will experience the peace that comes from knowing you are in control, not of the other person, but of yourself. And in that peace, you will find the deepest, most lasting connections you've ever known. The transformation is inevitable. It's not a matter of if, but when. So make the choice today. Choose self-control, choose peace, and watch the miracle of transformation take place before your very eyes. Everything we have spoken about today leads to one unshakable truth. The greatest power you have is not in your ability to react, but in your ability to remain silent, to stay in control, and to protect your peace. Disrespect will come. It is inevitable. People will test you, provoke you, try to shake your confidence. But the way you respond determines the course of your life. Will you allow others to pull you into chaos? Or will you stand firm, unwavering in your self-respect and wisdom? Silence is not weakness, it is mastery. It is the difference between being controlled by emotions and being guided by wisdom. When you stay quiet, you do not surrender, you rise above. You disarm your enemies without lifting a finger. You protect your spirit from unnecessary battles. You show the world that your value is not determined by the opinions of others, but by the strength you carry within. And as you walk forward from this moment, I pray this over you. May you find the strength to remain still in the face of conflict. May you rise above the words meant to harm you, unmoved and untouchable. May your silence be your shield, your wisdom be your guide, and your peace be your greatest weapon. I pray that God grants you the discernment to choose self-control over reaction, to see beyond the insults and recognize the truth. You are not defined by the disrespect of others. You are defined by the power within you. Walk in that power, walk in that peace, and let no one steal it from you. Amen.